Joseph François Michaud was a French historian and publicist. Biography. Michaud was born at Albans, Savoie, educated at Bourg-en-Bresse, and afterwards engaged in literary work at Lyon, where the French Revolution first aroused the strong dislike of revolutionary principles which manifested itself throughout the rest of his life. In 1791 he went to Paris, where, at great risk to his own safety, he took part in editing several royalist journals. In 1796 he became editor of Le Quotidien, for which he was arrested after the 13th of Vendémiaire. He evaded his captors, but was sentenced to death in absentia by the military council. Having resumed the editorship of his newspaper on the establishment of the Directory, he was again proscribed on the 18th of Fructidor, but after 2 years returned to Paris, when the consulate had superseded the Directory. His Bourbon sympathies led to a brief imprisonment in 1800, and on his release he temporarily abandoned journalism, and began to write and edit books. In 1806, with his brother Louis Gabriel Michaud and 2 colleagues, he published Biographie moderne ou dictionnaire des hommes qui se sont fait un nom en Europe, depuis 1789, the earliest work of its kind. In 1811 published the first volume of his Histoire des Croisades and also the first volume of his Biographie universelle. In 1813 he was elected academician, taking up the vacancy left by the death of Jean-François Michaud de l'Estendue. In 1814 he resumed the editorship of Le Quotidien. His brochure Histoire des Quinze Semaines à la dernière reine de Bonaparte met with extraordinary success, passing through 27 editions within a very short time. His political services were now rewarded with the Cross of an Officer in the Legion of Honor and the modest post of King's Reader, of which last he was deprived in 1827 for having opposed Peyronet's loi de mort against the freedom of the press. In 1830–1831 he traveled in Syria and Egypt for the purpose of collecting additional materials for the Histoire des Croisades. His correspondence with a fellow explorer, Jean-Joseph François Michaud, consisting practically of discussions and elucidations of various points in that work, was afterwards published. Like the Histoire, it is more interesting than exact. The Bibliothèque des Croisades, in 4 volumes more, contained the pieces justificatives of the Histoire. Michaud died at Passy, where his home had been since 1832. Works. Michaud's Histoire des Croisades was published in its final form in 6 volumes in 1840 under the editorship of his friend Michaud. Michaud, along with Michaud, also edited Nouvelle Collection des Mémoires pour servir de l'Histoire de France. See Sainte-Beuve Causeries du Lundi, Volume 7. In 1875, the famous illustrator Gustave Doré produced 100 pictures for a 2-volume medium folio edition of the Histoire, which was published by Hachette and Company.